Уважаемые коллеги, dear friends, welcome again. Позвольте мне...
Please allow me to once again cordially welcome you. I hope that you enjoyed yesterday's evening. We wanted to show to you the performance by our dancing and singing teams, the soul and spirit of Russia, of Russian nation and people. And it seemed to me that at the end of that evening, with so much talent, our performing artists have expressed respect for culture and traditions of Africa. Today, we are to hold several sessions. If you allow me, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to begin my statement. I would like to address the President of Egypt, first and foremost, and all respected heads of governments and states, heads of executive bodies of regional organizations. I welcome all of you at the Russia-Africa Summit in Sochi, dedicated to cooperation between Russia and Africa. Gathered here today are representatives of all 54 African countries and leading regional organizations. It is truly the first meeting of such scale which convincingly demonstrates our mutual willingness to develop ties in all areas and strengthen our multifaceted partnership. I would like to say at the outset that the great role in organizing the Russia-Africa Summit has been played by President of Egypt. That is why I addressed him first. He is acting chairperson of the African Union, and he's been together with us during all the preparation for this summit. Our Egyptian partners assisted us in solving issues that related to organizing the meetings here at this summit. And today, it is my great honor to co-chair this meeting together with Mr. Sisi. Dear friends, Russia and Africa are tied with traditionally friendly relationship. Our country has been consistently supporting the national liberation movement of the peoples of Africa. It has contributed significantly into the emerging of young states, developing their economy, establishing combat-capable armed forces. Our cooperation, which goes back to the period of joint fight against colonialism, is of strategic and long-term nature. And of course, we have vast possibilities for galvanizing Russian-African cooperation in various spheres. I would underscore developing relations with African countries and African regional organizations is one of Russian foreign policy's priorities. African countries are steadily gaining political and economic weight, establishing themselves as one of important pillars of the multipolar global order, becoming active participants of decision-making of the global community on key issues of regional and global agenda. On many of those issues, our positions are close or the same, which lays down the favorable foundation for constructive cooperation within the UN and other international organizations. We will, of course, continue our regular consultations at the venue of the UN General Assembly. We will consolidate ties between the missions of our countries at the UN and carry out coordination with non-permanent members of the Security Council from Africa. This will enable us to multiply our efforts in ensuring common and indivisible security, building a more just model of the modern world. We are grateful to our African partners for supporting priority resolutions, which are resolution on fight against glorification of Nazism, on no first placement of weapons in outer space, on confidence-building measures in outer space, on international information security. As a permanent member of the UN Security Council, Russia intends to continue to be an active participant of strategic line of international community and practical measures in terms of strengthening peace and stability in Africa and ensuring regional security. We are in favor of enhancing the role of African states in settling local conflicts. At the same time, we always follow the principle African solutions to African problems. That is just what we discussed yesterday with our colleagues. We believe it is correct that the Africans pose the question of financial assistance to their peacekeeping efforts at the expense of assessed contributions to the UN budget. We're concerned about the fact the situation in many African regions remains unfortunately unstable. Inter-ethnic conflicts have not been settled. There are acute political, social, and economic crises in place. The development of the African continent is impeded by terrorism, the spread of extremist ideology, transnational crime, and piracy. Many countries face the consequences of the so-called Arab Spring, which resulted in destabilization of the situation in the whole region of northern Africa. It is in this region, as well as in the Sahara-Sahel area, near the Chad Lake and in the African Horn, that numerous terrorist organizations are active, including the Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, and Al-Shabaab. In this regard, we believe it's important to step up our joint efforts in combating terrorism and extremism. We plan to revitalize ties between our law enforcement agencies and security agencies of the Russian Federation and African countries, as well as to coordinate efforts and exchange relevant information. We intend to continue training military personnel and law enforcement personnel from Africa at Russian specialized educational institutions. At the current moment, there are military from 20 African countries studying at universities of the Ministry of Defense of Russia in order to improve combat capability of national armed forces of Africa. We cooperate on military and military technical issues. Russia has signed agreements on military and technical cooperation with more than 30 countries, to which we supply a wide range of armaments and equipment, and some of them for free. African partners are active participants of military and technical forums and exercises carried out by Russia, where they get to know the prospective armaments and military equipment. Last summer, during the 2019 Army International Games, we hosted 11 African countries, and the number of participants is growing. An important element of the system of relationship of Russia and African countries is trade, economic, and investment cooperation. In 2018, foreign trade between Russia and Africa amounted to more than $20 billion. Over the last 5 years, the trade volume has almost doubled. We see diversification of Russian export. Its structure is changing towards non-commodities. Russian companies have been quite successfully working in the region for a long time, mostly dealing with geological service and mineral resources extraction in energy, oil, and gas sectors. At the same time, steps are being made to establish cooperation in high tech. Many of those present here today participated in the Russia-Africa Economic Forum that was inaugurated yesterday, during which we've heard a lot of innovative ideas and proposals on how to develop Russian-African trade and economic cooperation. I would reiterate, an important area of our cooperation is training and education. There are now more than 17,000 students from Africa in our country, and the annual quota at Russian universities is almost 2,000 people. We will think about how we could increase that number. There are good prospects for our cooperation in medicine and healthcare. We have the R&D Institute of Epidemiology and Prevention of Dangerous Contagious Diseases in the Republic of Guinea. We believe we could also think about establishing another center of such type in Africa. One more center. We also believe it useful to supplement our cooperation on the bilateral basis by broadening ties with the leading African organizations. Yesterday, at the meeting with the heads of regional associations of Africa and chairman of the board of the Eurasian Economic Commission, we discussed prospect of mutually beneficial cooperation among integration structures of Africa and the Eurasian Economic Union. Today, we are going to sign memorandum on mutual understanding between the Eurasian Economic Commission and the African Union Commission. Dear colleagues, we are all interested in making sure that Russian-African cooperation becomes truly systemic and comprehensive. We have already discussed before the idea of establishing Russia-Africa Partnership Forum, within the framework of which, as we discussed yesterday with some of the colleagues during the dinner, we could hold, for example, 1 in 3 years, meetings at the level of heads of states. I believe this is a good idea, and we, of course, support it. And in the intersessional period, we could provide for annual political consultations among ministers of foreign affairs of our countries. I think you will all support this proposal, and it is in this format that we will continue to develop the relationship between Russia and Africa. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you, and it is now my pleasure to turn the floor over to President of Egypt, the current chairperson of the African Union and co-chair of our summit, Mr. Sisi.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I would like to welcome you, Mr. President, Your Excellency, Presidents and Heads of Governments, Your Excellencies, Mr. Musa Mohammed, Chair of the African Union Commission, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I would like to express gratitude to President Putin, to the friendly nation of Russia for the wonderful reception in the city of Sochi, and for the hospitality that all African delegations were able to feel since they arrived in Russia. I would like to thank the organizing committee for the wonderful preparation of this first Russia-Africa Summit, which begins its work today. It is my pleasure to speak at this important forum, which takes place in Russia. Russia is one of most important stakeholders in the international arena and a sincere friend of African countries. Russian-African cooperation has gone a long way, beginning from the middle of the 20th century, when Russia expressed solidarity with African countries that fought against colonialism and contributed significantly into logistics and national liberation movement of the peoples of Africa. Russian-African relationship continued to develop in complicated conditions, both regional and international, in the 1990s, thus confirming that peoples of Russia and Africa are tied by cooperation and common interests in combating common challenges. This speaks to the fact that our cooperation is efficient, and it reflects the desires of our nations in the conditions of a dynamically developing world. Today we hold the first Russia-Africa Summit under the logo for peace, security and development. It's been almost 3 months after the extraordinary African Union Summit that took place in Niamey on the 7th of July 2019, where mechanisms have been developed for implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. This agreement is one of fundamental basics of the Africa 2063 agenda, which goal is to strengthen regional integration, improve competitiveness of the African continent in the international arena, as well as attracting foreign investments into priority sectors. First and foremost, industry, energy, agriculture, and ICTs. African Union countries over the recent decade have set a goal for themselves to ensure sustainable economic development and integration African countries seek the strengthening of the role of state and government in economic development. Ladies and gentlemen, we are aware of all the problems and challenges that we are facing in terms of stabilization of the situation in Africa. It is possible that our ambitious plans to stop conflicts by 2020 are one of the most important steps. And this will be one of our priorities in the work of African leaders next year. And in this regard, I should make note of the fact that it is important to support the framework policy of the African Union in restoring economy of countries that suffered from conflicts, as well as support for the All-African Center located in Cairo on economic restoration and development. It is also important to emphasize the plans to strengthen the economic standing of countries in terms of consolidating capabilities of countries in ensuring peace and stability. We would underscore our obligations to participate in mediation efforts to settle conflicts. At the same time, we proceed from the principles of international law and non-interference into domestic affairs of various countries. We urge everyone for peace settlement of all conflicts. We would underscore once again that combating terrorism, which is a scourge penetrating our countries, this is something our nations have faced, as well as the friendly nation of Russia, is the main priority for us in strengthening peace and security at international and regional levels. Ladies and gentlemen, Africa is open for cooperation with all partners. We hope that at this summit we will be able to lay down a solid foundation for further Russia-Africa cooperation for next years, thus confirming the importance of expanding its scope in all areas: political, economic, trade, cultural, investment, education, in accordance with the principle of long-term partnership, while preserving the national sovereignty of African countries over their resources.
Ladies and gentlemen, our summit stresses the importance of peace, security, and cooperation, and Egypt has decided to organize in Aswan, December 11-12 of 2019, a forum which will be dedicated to the peace and sustainable development. This is a continental, regional, and pan-continental forum, and it will be a platform for political leaders to meet each other, our partners from the non-governmental organizations which are dealing with peace and sustainable development. We will organize it in Aswan. This is the symbol of identity of Egypt, and we will discuss the agenda dealing with consolidation of peace and sustainable development of our continent. I'd like to use this opportunity and to invite the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, and my brothers, heads of African states, to come and participate at this forum. And concluding my remarks, I'd like to express my hope and to express my hope once again that this forum will correspond to the interests and to the interests of Africa and Russia, and it will contribute to the future development of our cooperation. Peace to all of you. Mr. President, thank you for your intervention. Thank you for preparing this forum. Thank you for participating at this forum. And thank you for your contribution to the solution of the regional problems and to the solution of international problems in general. It's a good idea to organize a forum, which you just mentioned. we are supporting this kind of important event. And now I'd like to give the floor to the next chairman of African Union, Mr. Ramaphosa, President of South Africa.
Thank you very much, our host and President of the Russian Federation, Your Excellency President Vladimir Putin, President of the Arab Republic of Egypt and Chair of the African Union, Your Excellency President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, and ladies and gentlemen, allow me first to express our gratitude for the manner in which we have been received and the hospitality that has been offered to us in the beautiful city of Sochi. And thank you also to the committee that has made all the arrangements for the holding of this inaugural and historic summit. It is our ardent hope that this will open a new and promising chapter on relations between the Russian Federation and the African continent. The Russian people are our long-standing friends and supported our struggles for liberation and independence. This summit signals that Africa has indeed come into its own as a continent. We are a fully fledged player in the international arena and a continent that is ripe for investment and trade. At a time when the global trade arena is characterized by tensions and protectionism, the world's largest free trade area will soon be established on the African continent. The African Continental Free Trade Area will advance intra-African trade and facilitate our integration into the global economy. Its success depends on establishing and enriching rules that protect and promote international trade, investment, and finance. African nations are working together to attract higher levels of foreign direct investment. The abundant mineral and energy resources possessed by both Russia and many African countries presents opportunities for cooperation in the fields of energy, mineral exploration, beneficiation, and science and technology. Opportunities also exist in farming, infrastructure, and manufacturing. We are encouraged by the outcomes of the Russia-Africa Business Forum and must move with urgency to implement these. Globalization has brought about profound changes in the international, political, economic, and social and cultural dynamics. Emerging economies are on the ascendancy in many parts of the world, resulting in raised standards of living, and democracy is being consolidated in many parts of the world, especially on our continent. But there are also threats, the regional cross-border conflicts, the rise of transnational crime and terrorism. We want to encourage the Russian Federation to continue to support efforts to reform international institutions and advance multilateralism. Our relations with the Russian Federation are rooted in progressive internationalism. We are confident that this new partnership will deepen the already strong relations that we have. The ties are based on shared vision and global outlook, and I wish all delegates well, and once again, I'd like to congratulate the Russian Federation for inaugurating and hosting this very important summit. And we congratulate you, President Putin, for being the host for this summit. And we hope that it may grow stronger and stronger. Spasibo, I thank you.
Thank you, dear President. Russia and South Africa We share special relations during many times. We highly evaluate this. Thank you for your contribution in the development of our bilateral ties and the development of relations between Africa and Russia. Soon we will see each other again in Brazil as part of BRICS summit. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa are part of BRICS. And over there, we will once again discuss problems which you have just mentioned. One of them is protectionism and political restrictions in economics. All this altogether, same like other problems, they affect world economy and the development of countries which are now developing quite fast, including African countries. Thank you for mentioning this. I'd like to pass the floor to the chairman of the Commission of African Union, Mr. Frankie Mohammed. You have the floor, Mr. Mohammed. Distinguished President of Russia, Mr. Putin, distinguished Chairman of African Union, ladies and gentlemen, heads of states. For me, it's a real pleasure to be in wonderful resort city Sochi, which is located next to peaceful Black Sea. This city was the venue of international athletic events of high importance, and now it's the venue of the summit of Africa-Russia. And this city is open to all the winds. Mr. Putin, my government would like to thank you, and my delegation would like to thank you for your hospitality. And ladies and gentlemen, October 23rd of this year actually opens a new chapter in our relations with Russia, and we can say that the influence of the Soviet Union last century, beginning of last century, actually made it possible for us to have hope. You helped us to fight colonialism and to fight apartheid. We knew that the Soviet Union was a big friend of ours, which supported us, and you never betrayed us. You never let us down. A lot of African citizens we are educated in Russia in medicine, in diplomacy, and social sciences, in many other areas. Now these people occupy high positions in our respective countries. We will never forget your contribution to the development of our nations. Our cooperation is part and parcel of a new framework, of new international realities, because it becomes more and more evident that Africa becomes a key player, one of the key players internationally, and we are passing from classical development model to new strategic partnership models, which is part of our development up to 2063, which is based on key elements, key targets, which we will have to reach in such areas as peace, democracy, and regional integration for the benefit of Africa. We are sure that this kind of strategic partnership will be based on competitive edge of everybody who will participate in this process. It will be mutually beneficial, and these multilateral relations which will be developing as part of this in investments area, energy, innovations, professional education, agriculture, telecommunications, they will be beneficial for everybody. We have huge resources. We have such as wind, mineral resources. We can invest in all these areas, and it should be done following the ecological safety rules, environmental friendly rules. We are open for investments, and our soil is waiting for those who will come to Africa with their investments and efforts. I'd like to call upon all Russian investors, private and state investors, as well as investors of Eurasian region, to use this investment opportunity which our African market is offering. And on our behalf, we will do our best to create beneficial tax regime for you, investors. We will do our best to protect you. I'd like to mention just the fact that we have several agreements which we've signed with the Russian government. Several of them are in the pipeline, and I'm sure it will open a new page, a new era in the relations between Russia and Africa. We keep admiring Russia and a Russian nation, and we do hope that in this new era of multilateralism, we will actively cooperate with others. We cooperate in the international organizations, and Vladimir Vladimirovich, we would like to thank you for your position in the UN Security Council when it comes to voting in vis-a-vis African agenda. Thank you for your strategic partnership. I'd like to thank Mr. Mohammed for his intervention. Well, it's true. People with their talents, education, protected by the health system, efficient health system. That's what we are given by God, and our task is to protect it, to develop it. And I am grateful to you for mentioning the contribution of Russia in preparing experts, preparing in our academies experts for Russia. I'd like to thank Mr. Musa Fateha and Mr. Saleh. And now I'd like to give the floor to the head of the delegation from Algeria. You have the floor, sir. In the name of Allah, merciful, Your Excellency, President of Russia, Your Excellency, Acting Chairman of African Union, President of Egypt, Your Excellencies, I'd like to thank wholeheartedly His Excellency President Mr. Putin for inviting us to participate at this highly important summit, which is organized in this wonderful city of Sochi, which symbolizes the development of your state and symbolizes the development of our relations between Russia and Africa. And I'd also like to thank His Excellency President Abdel Fattah Sisi for his personal adherence to the goals which we have in front of us, and for his adherence to the idea of development of relations between Russia and Africa. Our today's summit is a turning point in our history, and it's a qualitatively new stage of development of our relations. That's why we are convinced that this summit will pave the way to important decisions and for new important concepts and approaches, which will allow us to determine ways of development of our relations in all areas, relations between African countries and Russia. We would like to see these relations strong, fruitful. We would like to see them allowing us to implement our goals, our hopes for development and prosperity. As to our collective efforts, we would like to make our own contribution to the proposals which are under discussion now. First and foremost, our relations which link Russia with a number of African countries, these relations could become a good example to follow, and they could affect positively and fruitfully the future of our relations. My country, we have special links with Russia, again taking into account our mutual interests. So we believe that making our bilateral relations stronger has to do with our participation, efficient participation in the work of African Union, and especially, again, taking into account the fact that our regional organization has proved to be loyal to the idea of implementing in real life goals which this organization has in front of it, which is quite important if we would like to make Africa stronger, if we would like to see these relations evolving together with our partners. And first and second, today when we are convinced that international relations are facing crisis in several areas due to unilateral actions of certain countries. So now we have to exert maximum efforts in order to keep loyal to main principles of our relations. And briefly, I would like to say that we believe that partnership between Russia and African Union should be based on joint actions, on more efficient efforts in this area. As to economic area, Africa would like to make more active trade exchange between our countries. We have to develop and to adopt new instruments, new tools of our cooperation, especially when it comes to new technologies, modern technologies. And here, support of Russia is of key importance for us. And concluding my remarks, I'd like to say that proposals which I've mentioned are quite important for us, and I'd like to support the words of Mr. Putin and Al-Fatah Sisi. Thank you once again. Thank you for your attention. Peace to all of you.
I want to thank my friend and colleague, the acting president of the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria, for his remarks, and I want to reassure him saying that this summit will be a pivoting moment in our relations with Russia and will contribute a lot into the development of our relations. And now I'd like to give the floor to the President of Angola, Mr. Lourenço. Thank you.
Sua Excelência Vladimir Putin.
Your Excellency, distinguished President Putin, I congratulate you for hosting this summit. I also want to thank President of Egypt, President Al-Sisi, for co-hosting this event. It is a privilege to participate in this summit. This was an initiative that was put together at the highest level, and the goal of this initiative was to promote the interests of both African countries, and Russia. We all reap the long-established partnership between our countries when the Soviet Union supported us in our fight against the colonial states, the colonial regimes. It was our solidarity with Russia and their solidarity with us that helped us to safeguard our sovereignty, to develop freely and to prosper this where the opportunity is granted to all the nations in Africa. We appreciate Russia's people's participation in the liberation struggle in Africa. And now we appreciate their respect for our own will and our own choice in developing our countries. We appreciate their support in safeguarding peace and security in Africa. This is a crucial aspect of our relationship between Russia and African Union. You make your input and contribution into tackling all the major challenges that our planet faces today. What we are seeing today in Angola is the diversification of economy. What's the goal of it? The goal is to attract foreign investments into mining, energy, agriculture, telecommunications, information and technology, and many other areas. It is worth noting that Russia's investors enjoy favorable conditions for developing this cooperation, for developing this cooperation for the mutual benefit and to the mutual interest, in order to achieve a secure and stable future for all. By doing so, we are pursuing our national goal of increasing the GDP and in securing prosperity for all the African nations. We believe that our cooperation is now getting to the new highs, to the record high level, and we hope to translate this cooperation into support for non-commodities sector and for manufacturing industries. I'm sure that many, in fact most, African nations would benefit from such cooperation. This is a key condition for African countries to turn into primary stakeholders on the global arena. And in this regard, we want to thank Russia for their support in preparing the national cadre, the national experts and specialists who got their education in Russia. This we appreciate greatly, and this underpins the socio-economic foundation of our economies. The world today goes through a digital revolution, and we hope that we will be a part of this process. In this regard, I hope that Russia will also be a major contributor in this regard. Thank you. I thank His Excellency Lorenzo, and I would like to give the floor to Cristiano Kabore, President of Burkina Faso. Your Excellency, President Putin, Your Excellency, President Al-Sisi, we appreciate greatly your high level of organization of this event, and also I would like to welcome the President of African Union here. I want to thank President Putin specifically for prioritizing the cooperation with Africa, and thank him for the hospitality, for the warm welcome that has been rendered to us ever since we came to this beautiful city of Sochi. Distinguished Mr. President, we are going through a historical period of transformation of our relations with Russia. In 2017, I voiced the idea of establishing cooperation between Russia and the Eastern African states, and now I would very much wish for this initiative to gain a practical dimension. Like all of us know, no major challenge today can be dealt with by any single state. I'm talking about fight against poverty, about extremism and terrorism. We need to come together to address these issues. Russia and Africa are linked by historical ties. We cooperate closely in science, security, education, and many other areas. And I'm extremely grateful that in the margins of the Economic Forum we can set the solid foundation for this cooperation to move to the next level. Distinguished President, colleagues, the first Russia-Africa summit must become a reference point in our interaction. At least this is what we sincerely hope for. As the president of the Sahel G5, I wanted to address the difficult situation that we are facing in the sub-region. First off, I want to appreciate all the efforts of all the member states of our organizations put in practice to fight the security issues and to redress the humanitarian situation that takes a deadly toll on our population. Today, counterterrorism is a priority for all 5 member states of this association. We are currently considering our budget and we want to allocate a major bulk of it for the counterterrorism efforts. Another priority is the fight against poverty. The idea is to come up with a comprehensive plan and create dignified jobs, especially for youth and for women. Last December, we have announced an ambitious plan on fighting the whole range of these issues in our sub-region. It's clear that no country, not even our association, can address those issues alone, which is why I would like to ask Russia humbly to help us in this undertaking. And I would very much like to benefit from our cooperation in this security issue, something that was mentioned in the Security Summit in Biarritz. Russia can indeed help us to fight terrorists and extremists in our region. I think that this summit is a historical milestone, and together we'll fight terrorism and will improve stability in our region. Long live the cooperation between Russia and Africa. Thank you. Mr. President, thank you. I would like to now give the floor to President Fonseca, Cape Verde. Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished President Putin, distinguished President Al-Sisi, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, heads of states and governments. I think this to be a high honor to participate in the first Russia-Africa summit. Its agenda will undoubtedly promote the major areas of our cooperation and will help us to untap the potential that was yet unrealized. Your Excellency, President Putin, the ideas that informed the agenda of this forum indeed bear great importance, and the challenges before us are many and varied. We wanted very much to highlight our opinions on the major issues that plague our continent today, namely terrorism, illegal immigration, organized crime, and energy crisis. We are very grateful to Russia for sympathizing with us, for the attention that it attaches to dealing with these issues. African Union faces a whole range of restrictions, and yet it still seeks peace and security in the region. It fights maritime piracy. And by working together, by coming together, we seek further economic integration of our continent. We also will promote and respect human rights. We will diversify our economy. We will articulate sustainable development processes. Our countries are coming together to work together, to forge a universal consensus on how we proceed in this area. And we enjoy very much the benefits of our cooperation with the Russian Federation. To a great extent, the very democratic development of our nations depends on it. And in this sense, I want to say the following. We also seek to establish free trade areas and economic integration zones between our countries that will bring together our countries. It is my profound conviction that the unity of African nations is the key to addressing the top priority issues that we are facing. It is also the key that unlocks the economic development of our country. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates, Cape Verde is an active supporter of most integration processes in the area. We participate actively in the transatlantic working group. And ever since the group was established, what we were trying to achieve was not just the economic integration, but the political development of our countries as well. We have advocated greater respect for human rights. We have advocated greater interagency and intergovernmental cooperation between the countries. And concluding my remarks, I would like to extend an invitation to all the heads of states and governments of African countries to host the next rounds of international conferences in our country, in Cape Verde. To the best of our ability, we will try to promote and forge the link between Russia and the African states. So what I suggest is to host the next summit in Cape Verde. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. President. You've touched upon several important issues, including the creation of world trade areas. We will sign the final document of the summit, and it will serve as one of the stones in the foundation of our economic cooperation, the cooperation between Russia and Africa. I now would like to give the floor to the President of Central African Republic, Faustin Archange Touadéra. Your Excellency, President Putin. Your Excellency, President of African Union, Your Excellency, President Al-Sisi, heads of states, High Commissioner Mahamat. First off, I want to congratulate President Putin, President of the Russian Federation, and thank the Russian government in general for the exceptional and splendid quality of organizing this event. And I also wanted to thank you for the heartfelt welcome rendered to me personally and my delegation. Central African Republic came here to this wonderful city of Sochi. What was the goal that we've pursued? The goal was to forge and strengthen our cooperation, the cooperation between Russia and African states. This cooperation is geared towards the future fruitful interaction between our regions. Our continent has an immense untapped potential. This is a continent with a huge labor force that is well educated, which is to an extent a fruit of our demography. And yet, Despite this untapped potential, we live in undescribable poverty, and we face a variety of military and political challenges. We fight transborder crime, terrorism, and climate change consequences. Ladies and gentlemen, this summit is an opportunity for us to seek and find solutions for these and many other issues, to transform our potential to something tangible, to something that will help us to reach the new highs. What we want to do is to make our economy evolve, to transform it, to create a platform for private-public partnership featuring the participation of Russia. We want to discuss the issues of common interest for us, the developmental issues. And one other thing that we wanted to discuss are the issues of sustainable development of our continent. One thing I wanted to remind you of is that many countries of the continent, including the Central African Republic, are dependent on the exports of raw resources, of commodities exports. And in this sense, what I'm trying to say is that we need to improve the legal framework of this issue, and we need to look into the further avenues of cooperation. This is an issue of major interest for the sub-Sahel region. This is the sub-region where we direly need to fight poverty and to improve the quality of life. These are the challenges that we are facing today and that we need to tackle together by strengthening cooperation between Russia and the African continent. Ladies and gentlemen, we are convinced that this is exactly the approach that would help us to effectively tackle the problems that we face. And in this sense, I welcome all the steps that Russia takes, helping us bilaterally and multilaterally. I want to stress this. We are discussing a variety of challenges today, and these are something that we have in common. Thank you. Now I would like to give the floor to... I wanted to say that President Mahamat mentioned the Chair of the Commission of the African Union, Mr. Mahamat, mentioned the challenges that we face in education and its importance for economy. Today, economy is the underpinning factor for economic growth, and the fight against poverty that you've mentioned is indeed a critical thing. Let's face it. Poor people cannot afford healthcare, cannot afford education, and this is our nation. These are our people. We're here to care for them, and we sincerely wish you and your country to tackle this issue. We wish you success in consolidating the society, and thank you for your remarks. And now I want to give the floor to President of the Republic of Chad, Mr. Idriss Déby Itno.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, Mr. Putin, Your Excellency, Mr. Abdelfattah al-Sisi, President of the Arab Republic of Egypt, and Chairperson in Office of the African Union, heads of states and governments, Your Excellency, Mr. Chairperson of the African Union Commission, ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, I would like to thank and commend the Russian government for organizing this summit, for the warm reception and hospitality accorded to us since the moment we arrived in Sochi. I would also like to thank President Putin for his leadership and his initiative to organize first Russia-Africa Summit and for the wonderful organization of this event. Ladies and gentlemen, the relationship between Russia and Africa goes back to the struggle against colonialism. Multilateral support provided by the Soviet Union to liberation movements in Africa was a decisive factor in decolonization. Africa will never forget this historic contribution made by Russia into the struggle for political freedom and justice. It should also be added that thousands of scholarships have been allocated to African students to study at Soviet and Russian universities. The students studying both civilian and military professions, and hundreds of them from Chad, were educated in different fields and contributed immensely into the development of our country. It's the first Russia-Africa summit, which provides us with a wonderful opportunity to give a new impetus to our development that has been developing for quite a long time now, but we need to adjust it to new reality. In this context, I would also welcome the Economic Forum. Despite the difficulties and certain vulnerabilities Africa has, we are the only continent with a GDP growing with double-digit numbers. And in this context, it provides us with unbelievable opportunities for mutually beneficial cooperation. And in this regard, I would like to show and express interest Chad has in bilateral cooperation with Russia in every field. Chad is a country with immense opportunities, with potential which should be untapped and unlocked. Our institutional code gives every possibility and provides all the necessary guarantees for investors. Therefore, we invite all investors, both private and public, to invest into Chad. We're also especially interested in making sure that we also receive technologies and competences along with investment. Ladies and gentlemen, peace and security are inalienable for the development of our region. For 10 years now, in the Sahel region, we've seen a terrorist crisis aggravating in Libya. Despite the efforts, both public and private, this threat jeopardizes our development efforts. And the states affected by it, whether it's the G5 Sahel or other states, allocate from 18 to 32% of their budget to establish security and to promote security. In this struggle against terrorism, Russia is our key partner in strengthening regional stability. Political and diplomatic support we receive from Russia as a permanent member of the UN Security Council is indispensable to make sure that our efforts in Africa are successful to get a vote in the UN Security Council within the framework of the Security Council reform. I would also remind you that destabilization of Sahel by terrorism is closely linked with chaos that emerged in Libya as a result of a military intervention in 2011. And Africa today sees the results of this intervention. And we need to resolve this crisis as soon as possible. We can spare no efforts to restore peace in Libya, and in this context, we would like to emphasize how important it is to immediately agree and coordinate Russian and African efforts to put an end to a Libyan crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first Russia-Africa summit which allows us to lay down the foundation for our cooperation based on our common hopes, aspirations, inspirations. We have a vast potential to develop our cooperation. It's obvious that both countries need it. We need to set forth the main guidelines and strategic areas for cooperation to make sure we have a favorable environment for our cooperation in social, economic, trade, investment fields and technologies and in other areas. We need to diversify our relationship and to give a new impetus to our cooperation. Then we'll become a center of attraction and will create the necessary leverage to build our future together and to better meet the global challenges we're facing today. I am deeply convinced that our summit will serve this purpose. I thank you for your attention. Thank you very much for your statement. I took note of the investment code that you've mentioned. We will give a relevant signal to our companies, to our industries, and I believe they will have a close look at it. But what surprised me in your statement is that you have said that many African countries spend from 18 to 32% to security-related issues. This is an extreme burden, and that's what we discussed yesterday and what we discussed today. Counterterrorism, combating organized crime, but this is extremely important, and this is an unbelievable burden. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that it's an open secret that in Russia today we enjoy a rather efficient security system. And which is even more important, it is a state-of-the-art army. A lot needs to be done in this sense, but nevertheless, it's still rather efficient. We spend less than 3% for the needs of the Ministry of Defense, and we keep reducing these expenses. Therefore, reducing the military burden is of extreme importance, and this should be a subject of our discussion in the future. Thank you very much for your statement. And now we pass the floor to Mr. Azali Assoumani, the President of the Union of the Comoros. Your Excellency, Mr. President, dear colleagues, Your Excellency, Mr. Putin, Your Excellency, Mr. Sisi, Your Excellency, Chairperson of the African Union, on behalf of the Union of the Comoros and on behalf of my delegation, I would like to sincerely thank Mr. Putin, President of the Russian Federation, and his government, as well as the friendly people of the Russian Federation, for the initiative of organizing this summit and for the warm welcome accorded to our delegation from the moment we arrived to this wonderful and generous city of Sochi. Our country has always been an active participant of all the efforts taken in the African region. We are now chair of the Pacific Commission, and Mr. Jacques Chirac, ex-president of France, used to say during the summit in Johannesburg, our home is burning and we're looking away, we're turning away from it. And even 17 years later, this is still relevant. Constant changes on our planet demonstrate that it is impossible to build something on the soil which is eroding due to our own efforts, even despite our own efforts. On behalf of the Union of the Comoros, our small island developing country, I welcome this Sochi summit, which will enable us to achieve a lot together for a more equitable and prospering world. This economic forum should allow our two spaces to have a confidence-based relationship and become an important stage for a dynamic and fruitful cooperation. We have natural resources, knowledge, experience, and expertise, which would make it possible for us to develop a common vision, which will show us the world from a different perspective. New international order, in many cases, is imaginary unless it provides us with an opportunity to develop multilaterally. Africa is a continent rich in mineral resources. We still pay a lot and even too much for humanitarian tragedies, and there is chronic absence of development in our countries, climatic disasters. Unless we resolve these problems, we will not be able to develop our continent. And by giving an impetus to the economic relationship between Russia and Africa at the strategic level, we will be able to thus give an impetus to our multilateralism. Every country can contribute. Even if it's modest, it will nevertheless serve to the survival of our planet, of the Earth. Russia is undoubtedly an international power, and its role in developing and maintaining balance cannot be doubted by anyone. My country, the Union of the Comoros, is similar to other emerging countries on behalf of which I speak here today. And it should be treated in a special way, since we are the most vulnerable country to different issues related to our structural vulnerability. In our cooperation with the Russian Federation, which should grow and consolidate, we hope to be able to integrate such elements as South-to-South cooperation. I would like to sincerely thank President of the French Republic, President of the Russian Federation, we hope that we'll work together with the Russian Federation in all areas to mobilize our resources. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Azalia Soumani, the President of the Union of the Comoros. Now the floor will be passed to the President of the Republic of Congo. Your Excellency, Mr. President of the Russian Federation, Your Excellency, Mr. President of the Arab Republic of Egypt and Chairperson in Office of the African Union, ladies and gentlemen, heads of states and governments. Your Excellency, Mr. Chairperson of the African Union Commission, on this solemn day, I would like to thank wholeheartedly His Excellency, Mr. President Putin, for the initiative of organizing this summit and for the warm hospitality accorded to our delegation since the moment we arrived and landed in Sochi at the seacoast of the Black Sea. Africa now is a space of the future. Our population is very young, our resources are limitless, and the fact that we are going to establish an African continental free trade area is in line with our vision. We want to turn Africa into an area of prosperity for all. We need to develop various integration projects in our continent in such priority areas as energy, transport, infrastructure, and telecommunications. At the same time, despite the difficulties of challenges and the price of these projects, we understand and recognize that not a single country is capable of implementing integration projects on its own. Therefore, we call upon all regional states, all associations to take part in this project, since they're based on our common interests and goals. In this regard, costs will be less, and based on concession deals and long-term loans, we'll be able to afford these projects. or at least to launch them. I'm convinced that our partners can also contribute significantly into ensuring peace and security on the continent, since this is our main credo. Our main wish now is to carry out landmark projects in Africa, which would confirm our joint will, the will of Africa and Russia, in moving together forward, shoulder to shoulder, to the bright future together. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of our government, on behalf of the Republic of Congo, I would like to confirm our deepest adherence to and commitment to building a gas pipeline with Russia of 100 kilometers long, which will supply commodities from Congo to the coast. And I'm convinced it will contribute to better investment climate, and we, for our part, offer preferential treatment, customs treatment to those who invest in our economy. We also want to divide our country into 4 priority regions with free trade areas established there. We would like to point out specifically oil, gas, and other natural resources to our investors. We're even going to launch a project of hydropower plant that would provide and generate power for almost half of the continent. The river of Congo is the second lungs of our planet, besides the Latin American rivers basins, and it should be preserved. This ecosystem should be preserved and protected. Therefore, I call upon everyone to be very attentive and with regard to contributions to the Blue Foundation for Preservation of the River Congo Basin. Mr. President, dear participants, I would like to say in conclusion that our nations, Congolese nation, will never forget the contribution made by Soviet people, Russian people into liberation of our continent and into decolonization of our common home. And today, with this summit, we open a new page in the relationship between Russia and Africa. We lay great hopes. 1,300,000 African citizens are looking into the future with optimism and hope, and are looking forward to new breakthroughs in our multilateral relationships. Thank you very much. I will now pass the floor. I thank the President of the Republic of Congo, and now pass the floor to President of the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire.
Monsieur le Président de la Fédération de Russie.
Thank you, Mr. President Vladimir Putin. Thank you, President of Egypt, Chairman of African Union, ladies and gentlemen, heads of states and governments. It gives me great pleasure to take the floor at this summit, which represents Russia and Africa. And I'd like to thank Vladimir Putin for hospitality, which we see here. I'm the first head of my state which actually visits Russia, and I welcome the presence and work of Abdel Fattah Sisi, President of Egypt, who is a co-organizer of the summit. Vladimir Vladimirovich, I'd like to say that for our continent, today is the very important day. The presence of Russia and when it comes to security, and the presence of Russia together with us will consolidate our security, will be more efficient in combating terrorism in Sahel region, in next to Lake of Chad. Russia was always helping us to develop our energy potential, to develop our electricity grids, which is very important now if we would like to follow the interests of our population of our continent, which is developing rather fast. Our trade balance is developing last year it was 20 billion of US dollars. It's a rather important amount, but the economic fora which took place yesterday will allow us to multiply those figures, because it will be evident that Africa has huge investment potential, economic potential in the area of raw materials, and our continent is ready to offer these opportunities for investors, for young generations which should be educated for our bright future. Now we are turning the page of multilateralism, and in the era of multilateralism we should pay special attention to peace and security all over the world. And I welcome the efforts of Russia, international efforts of Russia in combating international terrorism. We welcome the participation of Russia in peace-keeping efforts in Africa, and we also support efforts of Russia to reform, when it comes to reforms of Security Council. I welcome our bilateral cooperation, the increase of our trade turnover. I call upon Russian private sector to use the results of multiple reforms which are taking place in my country, in agriculture, in transport, in mining sector. As to the diplomatic relations, I welcome a wonderful level of relations between our countries. We fully understand each other in the UN Security Council. We are non-permanent member of Security Council. And concluding my remarks, I'd like to wish success to our summit, and thank you for your attention. Dear friends, colleagues, I'd like to give the floor to the President of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Mr. Felix Antoine Tshisekedi Chilombo. You have the floor, sir. Mr. President of Russia, Mr. President of Arab Republic of Russia, co-chairman of this forum, Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, heads of government, heads and states and governments, Your Excellency, Chairman of the European Union, dear participants. First of all, I'd like to thank the Russian President and Russian government and Russian citizens for wonderful hospitality here in friendly city of Sochi. I'd like to welcome my brother, the President of Egypt, Abdel Fattah Sisi, who is co-chairing this summit. Well, it was not. It was not. There are reasons why this wonderful city has been selected as a venue for this forum. Here, we have opportunities to think about the future of relations between Africa and Russia, and I'm sure that the forum will help us to deepen these relations for the benefit of both Africa and Russia. The need to cooperate, to keep developing, make it possible in my country to develop a rather transparent and open agenda, which is the basis for our foreign policy. And the DRC is the driver of a more inclusive partnership. Recently, we understood the importance of dialogue between civilizations and respect of sovereignty of national states. The efforts of African states to improve the conditions of our social development, unfortunately, in certain period of time, was not that efficient. And only joining our efforts, we were able to overcome this handicap. And I'm sure that this forum will help us to make our relations even more dynamic. Our continent, with its ecosystem, resources, and hydro energy potential, make Africa a pearl of the world. And We are one of the richest countries of the world. According to World Bank, we need investments of 130 billion of USDs per year if we want to develop this potential. We are dependent on export of mining industry, which is not that good for us. In 2010, 2014, oil and mining companies earned more than $42 billion of dollars, and only $6 billion out of this amount we received were transferred to our budget. So we cannot use the earnings of these companies for the benefit of our country. And the world mass media actually supports the Western agenda, and they do not pay attention to this problem. This is not popular among investors, and this is unipolar approach of mass media, which does not help us to solve our problems. It actually it does not pay attention to this. 120 million of hectares of soil, agricultural soil, it's a huge potential. Ores and the potential of great lakes, which could be compared only to Baikal Lake. And having all this potential, we are a rather vulnerable state. The agenda up to 2030 and the agenda of the European of the African Union up to 2063 should help us to overcome this complicated period of time. We do rely on our partners, especially on Russia. Africa does not want to participate in the confrontations. We don't want to be part of world conflicts. We just want to be the basis for a new world order, and our continent, we believe, should be included into the G7. And I believe that our foray in Sochi will help us to evolve in our relations, will help us to attract needed investments. Investments needed in our agriculture, investment needed to construct new factories, new plants, and we have to exert our efforts to achieve this. Thank you. Well, Mr. President, you've touched upon several important issues. I will not repeat all of them, but first and foremost, thank you for underlying the importance of our foray as to the fair distribution of earnings received thanks to exploiting resources. This is a big question, big issue for all those who are part of these activities. Well, I can tell you that at the end of 90s, beginning of 2000s, we faced this problem again as part of the concession agreements or contracts. But we managed to solve these problems together with our partners. So when everybody starts to think that this distribution should be fair, fair for investors and fair for countries where they work, so it's quite possible having goodwill to find these solutions. And now I'd like to give the floor to the President of the Republic of Djibouti, Ismail Hargele. You have the floor, sir. Thank you. In the name of Allah, Mr. Putin, President of Russia, Mr. Sisi, President of Egypt, and acting chair of African Union. Ladies and gentlemen, heads of states and governments. For me, it's a great honor to be here at the first Russia-Africa summit, and I'd like to express my gratitude to governments and of Russia and Russian people for hospitality they offered to me and my delegation. when we came to the city of Sochi. It's the first historical summit which opens a new page in development and consolidation of relations between Africa and Russia. Industrial countries become to understand that Africa will be a potential market of the 21st century. I'm sure that this summit will not be the last one. Others will follow, and thanks to best practices and technologies of Russia, Russia will contribute to the development of new, more fair economic system all over the world. Our continent is developing faster than other regions thanks to important management reforms, thanks to direct foreign investments, and thanks to the consolidation of medium class, which actually is the driving force of the new model of consumption. So we are developing market, and we call upon all investors to use these opportunities, in spite of the fact that in certain zones of our continent we still have conflicts and problems. But on behalf of the entire continent, we are sure that we will be able to overcome these difficulties, and soon peace and security will prosper for the benefit of everybody. We actually use our geographical situation in African Horn, and we are neighboring with important sea trade route, so we invest a lot in port infrastructure, in road infrastructure, which help us to distribute our resources, and our government does its best to create a favorable environment for national development. For the 10th year in a row, we are part of the list of the most successful reform, those countries which succeeded in reforming their system. And our aim to improve our economic situation for the benefit of our people. We offer good opportunities now. We will offer these opportunities in the future. We would like to call upon Russian investors to come to our country and to see by themselves what kind of investment opportunities our country is offering. We have huge tourist potential which is underexploited now. One can invest a lot in tourism, and we are doors to the African continent, so open it wide and enter the African continent. Once again, I'd like to thank Russia for organizing this summit, and I wish our summit all the best and the long history of our cooperation. Well, thank you, Mr. President. We congratulate you with the results, positive results of your reforms. Thank you for inviting us. Tourism is very important, and for Russia as well. Russia is in northern countries. Here in Sochi we have a beautiful weather presently, but all in all 70% of our territory of Russia is located in the northern part, and our tourists are spending dozens and dozens of billions of dollars in other countries. So to open new countries for Russian tourists, it's very important for you and for us. Thank you. Now I'd like to give the floor to the President of the Republic of Equatorial Guinea, Mr. Basogo. You have the floor, Your Excellency. Your Excellencies, Your Excellency Vladimir Putin, President of Russia, Your Excellency Abdel Fattah Sisi, President of Arab Republic of Egypt and Chair of African Union, dear heads of states and governments, dear delegates, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, allow me to thank Russia for warm hospitality which we were offered here in Sochi, which is a modern city, a hospitable city. This is a city which has a long-standing history. It's a symbol of modern Russia. Our summit makes it possible for us to evaluate the present stage of our cooperation and the possible future of cooperation between Africa and Russia in politics, economy, technical cooperation, culture, and social cooperation. Taking into account geostrategic situation and the present international situation, we are in the best possible conditions to create strategic partnership for the benefit of new world, a more balanced and more fair for all. And Russia could offer answers to many challenges which we are facing presently in Africa and the entire world in different areas, and not only in the economy, but also in the security area. The best practices of Russia in combating terrorism, intervention into internal affairs, military interventions, and Russian scientific and technical potential could be very useful for the entire African continent. Africa does not want to be a recipient of unilateral aid. We would like to be partners. We would like to be partners of the cooperation beneficial for all interested parties. Russia and Africa, they go hand in hand. We need each other because we have opportunity to implement the idea of our association which will make it possible for us to build a new world, more balanced and fair, which will correspond to our interests. Again, taking into account challenges of today's globalization. But at the same time, the African market is full of huge opportunities, and Russia shall use it. Our economic cooperation, political cooperation could be of enormous benefit, especially when we face the same challenges. Thanks to Russian investments, we could diversify investment proposals in Africa, and African goods could be represented in the Russian market. And I'd like to say that my country shares this vision, and we offer huge investment opportunities in the environment of peace and security. We are doing our best to diversify our national economy, and I'm sure that Russia will play a key role in these efforts, bilaterally and multilaterally. And concluding my remarks, I'd like to call upon Russian private sector to develop their activities in various sectors of our economy in order to generate new employment for present and future generations. Thank you. Mr. President, you mentioned a very important and interesting idea. You said that Africa does not want to be an object of unilateral aid, but would like to be a partner. It's very important what you've just said, because it's true. Sometimes aid is just a need sine qua non, but quite often the aid which is imposed could just undermine your national industrial production. If you support help without control to sectors where a country could prosper nationally or develop its own production, your national producers will suffer, and they will lose their competitive edge. That's why I do share your idea. We should be very attentive when it comes to this. And this kind of aid or help shall not be just transfer of goods, but it should result in developing production in the national territory, in Africa specifically.
I would like now to give the floor to King of Eswatini, Mswati III.
President Putin, our host, President Fattah al-Sisi, Chairman of the African Union, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we take this opportunity to thank the President of this great nation, government, and the people of the Russian Federation for being such a good host and organizer of this inaugural Russia-Africa Summit, seeking to strengthen and promote trade cooperation. We are pleased that Russia has identified the importance of creating vibrant economic ties with the African continent, which we welcome with warm hands. We believe that Russia and Africa possesses great potential for reciprocal economic benefit and building strong and lasting partnerships for sustainable economic development as per the theme of the summit, uncovering the potential for cooperation. In June this year, Africa liberalized trade in the continent and created unique markets for goods and services for our investors. This will be facilitated through the regional economic blocks, e-commerce platforms, which will serve as a conduit to market the products. We look forward to working together with the Russian government and the private sector and its people. We welcome this platform to share experiences with a country like Russia, which is well positioned as an advanced economy. It is important for developing nations to sit and strategize with Russia on how to move forward together in developing the Africa we want by 2063 through forming strong partnerships. We are pleased to note the technical and developmental support that Russia extends to the continent in terms of human capital, as well as other humanitarian interventions. This has added the required impetus in terms of working towards the attainment of some of the Sustainable Development Goals 2030. Your Excellencies, as the Kingdom of Eswatini, we are constantly shaping our investment climate to ensure that the operational environment is more permissive to business. The Kingdom remains an oasis of peace and stability with a predictable investment setting. We also seek to become a production hub in the region that takes advantage of the ever-widening strategic markets for our goods. We have investment opportunities in a variety of sectors such as manufacturing, mining, agriculture, pharmaceuticals, aviation, tourism, and infrastructure, to name but a few. In pursuit of our National Vision 2022 of attaining developed status, we have innovation parks that can be used for research and development, and free economic zones that are available to be used by investors and thereby access preferential advantages. As I conclude, allow me, Your Excellencies, to applaud the quest to confront global imbalances as well as the significant role that Russia plays in advancing peace and stability, together with the socio-economic challenges faced by our continent. I thank you. May Almighty God bless us all.
أشكر أخي جلالة الملك مسوات الثالث على كلماته، وأدعو معالي السيد أبي أحمد.
Thank you, Kingdom of Eswatini, and I would like to give the floor to the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed.
Your Excellency Vladimir Putin, Your Excellency Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Your Excellency Moussa Faki Mohammed, Excellencies, Heads of States and Government, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to begin by commending President Putin for taking this initiative to host the first ever Russia-Africa Summit. Historically, the principle of solidarity has been the defining characteristics of Russia-Africa relationship.
Our gathering at this summit will enable us to explore the potential for mutually beneficial cooperation that stands on an equal footing to address the myriad of challenges we face as a global community. The old-fashioned zero-sum game approach in dealing with international peace and security has cost us a lot historically. And in our current globalized and highly interconnected world, the complexities we face require our collective commitment to developing and sustaining cooperative relations. We have laid out these commitments in the purpose and principle of the United Nations Charter, which are the basic tenets of global prosperity. Let us uphold these principles for the greater well-being of our nations. Excellencies, in Ethiopia and within the home region, my government is championing the philosophy of Maddamar, a Amharic word loosely translating to synergy. Maddamar calls upon us to take stock of our positive assets from the past, build them into our present, and pass the accumulated capital to the future generations. Regionally, we are also encouraging Maddamar to complement each other and to build on our country's individual and collective strengths and historical assets. My government truly believes an integrated Horn of Africa is the pathway to securing our future together. There is no doubt we share similar views on a range of regional and international issues of common interests at this gathering. These mechanisms for dialogue, partnership that we will establish through the adoption of the summit declaration will go a long way in helping us coordinate our position in international fora. And it's my hope that we can inculcate the spirit of Maddamar in the way forward we are forging. Excellencies, there is tremendous potential for Africa and Russia to enhance trade and economic cooperation. The continent's abundant natural resources and energetic use, coupled with investment in infrastructure, development and innovation, are fast changing the face of our countries. Our narratives are also shifting from fighting poverty to building prosperity for our citizens. To maximize on our potential for economic growth, we have also been marking milestones in silencing the guns and mobilizing our industrialization machineries. We have recognized that peace is the foundation for prosperity, and we are working hard to sustain it. Ethiopia is also actively working together with its neighboring countries towards ensuring peace and security in the home region. The often volatile Horn of Africa is looking more stable politically and more attractive economically. We have no doubt that the positive narratives we are creating in our region will radiate throughout the continent. Therefore, our priority areas like agriculture, tourism, mining, ICT, and manufacturing have great potential for mutual growth. I wish all of us fruitful discussion, and let us meet in Addis. Thank you very much.
قبل أن أشكر أخي السيد أبي أحمد رئيس وزراء إثيوبيا اسمحوا لي
President Ahmed, Prime Minister of Ethiopia, thank you very much for your remarks, and I would once again congratulate you on receiving the Nobel Peace Prize, and I hope that peace in Africa indeed will grow stronger. And now we give the floor to Adama Barrow, President of Gambia. Mr. President, you have the floor.
Your Excellency, Vladimir Putin, President of the Russian Federation and Chairperson of the Summit, Excellencies, Head of State and Government, distinguished delegates. On behalf of my entire delegation, I am pleased to express deep gratitude to the government and the people of the Russian Federation for the warm welcome and hospitality accorded to me and my delegations since our arrival in Sochi. In like manner, We are thankful to the government and the people of the Russian Federation for providing scholarships and training opportunities to generations of Gambians spanning over 3 decades. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Gambia is proud to attend the 4th Russia-Africa Forum, which offers great opportunities to deepen cooperation and pave new grounds for synergies. We are aware that the Russian economy is estimated to be the 6th largest based on purchasing parity. On the other hand, African economies have been undergoing transformational changes, and the region has been the fastest growing in recent years. In recognition of this growth, the Continental Free Trade Area in Africa opens up a single market of over 1.2 billion consumers. So it's the enormous potential economic opportunities that could be tapped. Against this background, the 4th ever Russia-Africa Summit is timely. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in 2018, trade estimates between Russia and Africa amounted to $20 billion. This provides significant opportunities in agribusiness, renewable energy, industry services, and retail. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in the Gambia, we have investment opportunities that bode well for this forum. Our National Development Plan has among its strategic priorities modernizing our agriculture and fisheries sectors for sustained economic growth, food and nutritional security, and poverty reduction. Investment opportunities exist in education and health services, which are priorities for the country. In equal measure, huge investment potential exists in the energy sector. We encourage investors and partners to explore investing in renewable energy, noting especially that year-round sunlight is guaranteed. Furthermore, investment opportunities in river transport exist along our navigable river. The Banjul port is the hub of West Africa with access to over 300 million people and just 6 hours away from Europe by flight. On one of the highlights of the forum, Africa welcomes the Russia industrial zone created in Egypt's Suez Canal Economic Zone. This will expand the opportunities for our participation in global value chains. We look forward to more insights into this groundbreaking investment with keen interest during the course of the forum. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, tourism is another important opportunity for Russia-Africa cooperation. In the Gambia, the smiling coast of Africa, we have already started receiving Russian tourists. We encourage more to visit. In conclusion, I renew the call to lay a lasting foundation for Russia-Africa economic cooperation, a relationship based on mutual respect and shared prosperity. I thank you for your kind attention.
Let me now give the floor to President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
Co-chairs, Your Excellencies, it is an honor to be amongst you and a privilege for me to deliver these brief remarks at the Russia-Africa Summit being held in this beautiful city of Sochi. I thank the President, His Excellency Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, and the government of the Russian Federation for the very warm hospitality accorded the Ghanaian delegation. The theme for this maiden summit is a recognition of the fact that both sides of the aisle, i.e. Russia and Africa, are agreed on what we want: peace, security, and development for our peoples. Your Excellencies, being strongly supportive during the Cold War of Africa's struggle for decolonization and liberation from colonialism and imperialism, for which Africa remains grateful. Russia, in the aftermath of the Cold War, has continued to increase her cooperation with Africa in several sectors such as security, education, health, energy, communications, mining, and railway construction. Today, the deepening ties of friendship are evident in the growth in trade between our two sides, which stood at $20 billion United States dollars in 2018, a 17% rise over the previous year. At the multilateral level, particularly at the United Nations, Russia has also been supportive of Africa's call for reforms at the UN Security Council, as set out in Africa's common position on UN reform, the Eswatini Consensus. I've urged others not to ignore Africa, and I'm glad that Russia is most certainly not ignoring our continent. According to the World Bank, 6 of the world's 10 fastest growing economies this year, including Ghana's, are in Africa. The continent is rich in natural resources and in possession of 30% of the Earth's remaining mineral resources. She has a vibrant young population, and though there are still important security challenges, she's more at peace than before. The African Continental Free Trade Area, which will cover a market of 1.2 billion people, with a combined GDP of some 3 trillion United States dollars across the 54 member states of the African Union, is now in force. With Ghana playing host to the Secretariat, the AfCFTA holds excellent prospects for trade relations between the continent and Russia. In all of this, we recognize that peace, security, and development walk in tandem. If the African continent is to take its rightful place in the world, it has to shed its image of instability, overcome the wars that plague us, and create societies of opportunities for our citizens, especially our youth. For us in Ghana, our resolve is to build a value-added industrialized economy with a modernized agriculture, trading in the global marketplace on the basis of things we make and grow, and to chart our own self-reliant, independent path within the world economic order. We believe that effective cooperation with Russia will help us attain this goal. Indeed, we want our relations with Russia to be characterized by an increase in trade and investment cooperation, and not by the export and import of raw materials. This, we believe, is the way to develop healthy relations between our two countries. Our vision is to build a free, prosperous country, a Ghana beyond aid, as a dynamic component of an independent and prosperous Africa. We hope that this new era of Ghana-Russia and Africa-Russia relations will reaffirm the principles of solidarity, mutual trust, and respect, which have anchored those relations for several decades, and which will assist us to develop peace, security, development, progress, and prosperity for our peoples. May God bless the Russian Federation, Ghana, and Mother Africa, and may God bless us all. I thank you for your attention.
Your Excellency, thank you for your president. I think that the motto, the slogan that you have formulated is indeed true, that Africa should become the continent of development, the developed continent, and I'm sure that your economic reforms will enable this. And now I'd like to give the floor to the President of the Republic of Guinea, Mr. Alpha Condé.
Excellence, Monsieur le Président Vladimir Putin.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, President of the Russian Federation, Your Excellency, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency, Mr. Sisi, ladies and gentlemen, heads of delegations, representatives of international organizations, ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, I would like to thank President Putin for the quality of reception accorded to us and for organizing this first Russia-Africa summit in the wonderful and beautiful city of Sochi. This summit brings us together, and this is definitely a symbol of new era of our deepened relationship. It is true that joint struggle we carried out to liberate our nations has inspired other people as well. And Russia has played a significant role in this. Russia has also played an important role in establishing a new paradigm after the Second World War. The Republic of Guinea has paid a high price for its courage in liberating itself from colonialism. Our access to finance, restrictions, to investment and trade was limited, but it was the Soviet Union that enabled us to break out of the siege and to lay the foundation of our new state. This contribution has been multifaceted. We had joint ventures in healthcare, security, construction. We built the Conakry Polytechnic Institute and the Oceanographic Research and Development Institute of the Republic of Guinea. We would like to once again thank the Russian Federation for the support provided to us in combating the Ebola outbreak in 2015. The Russian Federation has been instrumental in fighting this disease. The Republic of Guinea is a wonderful example of what Russian technologies and investment can do to unlock the unbelievable potential of African countries. Russian presence in our mining industry is traditional. As for us, we do our best to expand and diversify our joint ventures. We should also emphasize that this meeting is important since it can show that the future of our planet, whether demographic, security, climatic, or environmental or technological future, has to do with Africa. There are many young people living here in Africa, and in future, these youth will become a possibility for the globe to resolve the challenges our continent is facing. We need to bring our efforts together to promote our common interests with Russia. We deeply value Russia's involvement in implementation of interests of our continent on a long-term basis. We hope that cooperation between Russia and Africa will not be limited to energy sector, and we will be able to ensure energy security together. We hope also to be able to develop our cooperation in all areas. We would like to promote all sorts of cooperation. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Mr. President, the example of your country demonstrates that economic restrictions based on political considerations harm the development, but they can never stop the development. We wish you every success in your development. I would now like to pass the floor to the President of the Republic of Guinea, Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta.
Excellency Co-Chairs Vladimir Putin, President of the Russian Federation, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, President of the Arab Republic of Egypt and Chairperson of the African Union, distinguished heads of state and government, heads of delegation, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you, President Putin, for the invitation to attend and to participate in the first Russia-Africa Summit. And I congratulate your government for hosting this historic summit and for extending your legendary warm Russian courtesies to me and my delegation since our arrival in this beautiful city of Sochi. This summit heralds the rebirth of Russia-Africa relations, and I therefore applaud the co-chairs, President Vladimir Putin and Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, for an initiative that lays firm foundation for renewed cooperation between Africa and Russia. The summit offers us an opportunity to rekindle Russia-Africa relations, to reshape and expand political, economic, technical, and cultural cooperation, and to imagine and create a structured future relationship. Kenya, like many other African countries, draws on a long history with this nation. We benefited from the Soviet Union's support during the struggle for liberation, which in effect guided Africa's early efforts to develop strategies and plans that would set us on the path of political liberation, economic autonomy, and self-reliance. Indeed, many of our African political forefathers drew great inspiration from the Soviet Union. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the theme of the summit, uncovering the potential for cooperation, is appropriate and also timely. There is a great deal of untapped potential for cooperation between Russia and the continent of Africa. And I believe that the renewed Russia-Africa relationship should be guided by four main pillars, namely, the need to achieve a shared prosperous future, the imperative to strengthen collective security, the necessity to address global threats, and the urgency to restore multilateralism. A relationship built on these pillars will contribute to the well-being of our people, enhance cooperation on peace and security, increase people-to-people interactions, growth in trade and investment, and most importantly, guarantee prosperity for our children, grandchildren, and indeed all future generations. Excellencies, a critical partner to the realization of this inspiration will be our private sector, which is an engine for growth. The growth of this sector requires sustained domestic and foreign private investment flows and continued improvement of the environment for its development. We must also optimize the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. With a population of 1.2 billion people, the Africa Continental Free Trade Arrangement is a critical vehicle for a structured and closer Africa and Russia partnership, and by extension, Africa-Eurasia cooperation. Another key driver for our shared aspirations is peace and security. The pursuit of peace and sustainable security are at the center of Kenya's foreign policy and remains as a strong focus of the African Union agenda. Unfortunately, the world and Africa continue to face growing threats of transnational security challenges manifested through piracy, terrorism, cybersecurity, and trafficking. These situations are compounded by growing ecological fragility caused by climate change, which reduce population resilience and draws on state capacities for effective mitigation. I note with appreciation Russia's support to Africa's peacekeeping efforts, and particularly your country's contribution to the formation and strengthening of the African mission in Somalia, AMISOM. We urge Russia to lobby the United Nations to allow the UN assessed funding for AMISOM. We also look forward to Russia's strong voice to promote global action towards sustainable development and climate action agenda in order to rebalance our ecosystem. Kenya believes strongly in us forging a comprehensive partnership that focuses on the need for shared prosperity, and this is why we are keen to make our contribution. This is why Kenya will, among other things, endeavor to build bridges regionally and globally with a view to promote collective peace and security, counter violent extremism and terrorism, and enhance efforts towards the global environmental and climate change agenda. I take this opportunity also to invite all of you to the Nairobi Summit of the International Conference on Population and Development, to be held in Nairobi between the 12th and 14th of November this year. This meeting will be crucial in ensuring that our women and young people can make choices that enhance their productivity and realization of their full potential. As I conclude, co-chairs and dear colleagues, I wish to reiterate that all indicators point to the narrative of a rising Africa, a continent at the peak of major transformation, brimming with opportunities for trade, investment, and strategic opportunities. Let us seize the platform provided by this summit to make the renewed Russia-Africa relationship a catalyst for accelerating the positive changes we are witnessing across the entire African continent. I thank you for your attention.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, you mentioned a very important circumstance, the need to attract private investment. And I must say, this is also relevant for Russia. We are also working on it, on creating the favorable investment climate. This is a goal that any country has to do with, either developed or developing country. We understand each other very well on this. I would now like to pass the floor to the head of the Presidential Council, Prime Minister of the Government of National Accord of Libya, Mr. Fayez Sarraj. Your Excellency, heads of delegations, first and foremost, please allow me, on my behalf, and on behalf of my government, to send congratulations on this historic forum. I would also like to express my deep gratitude and appreciation to the Russian leadership for hospitality. Ladies and gentlemen, this forum is an important landmark in the development of Russian-African relationship. Our country is now undergoing a severe crisis, which is a result of interference into domestic affairs of Libya, and which resulted into a split of governmental institutions and to aggression against our capital. What happened on April 4th this year. And what we're witnessing now in Libya is a direct violation of our national rights, our independence and sovereignty. We urge to convene a national conference that would involve all Libyans in order to resolve the crisis we find ourselves in and to put an end to international intervention that we are now witnessing. We seek a civil society. We and a secular state. We, in our struggle, try to make sure that we have significant victories and we unlock the false pretexts that are being used to interfere into our domestic affairs. We see terrorists now who are under attack of all progressive forces in our country. Nevertheless, it leads to numerous casualties among our young people. And our government, for all previous years, has taken all possible efforts to put an end to those groups of terrorists, to those units of terrorists that are active in different areas of our country. Armed groups, hostile armed groups, carry out military crimes against our nation. Our position is to combat these terrorists resolutely, and all those who are responsible for deaths of dozens of thousands of people, for murdering our children. All these crimes are denied by international law. Ladies and gentlemen, peace and security are the goal of our work. That is why this June we've called upon general election. At the meeting that was dedicated to it, we also condemned any attempt to interfere into domestic affairs of our countries. We see the developments in Libya as detrimental not only to our country but to the whole African continent. Therefore, we urge everyone to take part in supporting our willingness to defend our sovereignty that would serve the interests of Libya and whole Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to this summit being determined and to support the relationship between Russia and African countries. African countries have a huge potential, rich natural resources, and Russia supports Africa both financially and politically. And I hope that decisions made at this summit will contribute to the development of our relationship. This is a historic meeting indeed. And we count on your support and on your assistance on our way to strengthening peace and security on our continent and in our country. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Mr. Prime Minister, I believe many would agree with me that, first of all, we are all keeping a close watch with great concern on the developments in your country. I believe that what we see now is a result of reckless and irresponsible policy of a number of states that acted in violation of international law in Libya and that perverted the UN Security Council resolution at some point. And this is the result that we see now. We wish you the soonest restoration of peace, law and order in your country. And I'm confident that a commitment to achieving an agreement between all the conflicting parties should result in restoration of Libyan statehood, and we will all contribute to this process. We wish you success in this undertaking.
أدعو الآن أخي فخامة الرئيس أندري راجولينا رئيس جمهورية مدغشقر لإلقاء كلمته فليتفضل.
And now we would like to pass the floor to the President of the Republic of Madagascar. Your Excellency, Mr. Chairperson of the African Union, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellencies, Madagascar is participant of this summit with great pleasure.
Russo-Africaine.
It's an unprecedented forum, important for Russia and Africa. And the initiative to organize such a meeting was well received by the African leaders. That's a great opportunity for all of us to keep developing our cooperation. I'd like to welcome here my brothers, presidents of African countries, who are willing to develop relations with different countries, thus diversifying our partnership. My African brothers choosing a constructive model of our cooperation, we should still be pragmatic. We should strive for better future, and let us follow this path. And our presence here shows that we hope that Russia will be an active actor when it comes to African development. The entire world is looking at Africa, thanks to our trade operators, thanks to our business, thanks to our leaders. We are now capable of developing ourselves, and our economic perspectives are huge. We still have a lot of resources not exploited, and our people are willing to work and to develop themselves. We hope to implement our human and economic potentials, which makes Africa one of the centers of economic development of the world. And today, these opportunities are widely recognized, and we would like to see our bilateral and multilateral relations consolidated. They should be more efficient, more balanced. They should have a real positive effect for the day-to-day life of our countrymen. I'd like to thank President Putin for his initiative to reduce our debt, which could make it possible, in exchange of projects in transport, in industry, etc. well, the cooperation between Africa and Russia is nothing new. It has a long history. But today in Sochi, we give an official dimension to this cooperation. We give new dynamic to this cooperation. We would like to consolidate it. And today we clarify the conditions of our partnership. We express our interests, our possible common points. And we hope that we will cooperate for the interests of everybody. Thanks to our dialogue, we create basis for active cooperation, and this will lead to mutually beneficial projects in our continent. For many years, and Africa was a workhorse for other countries, but now we should determine our future ourselves, and we are sure that we will achieve positive results at this fora, and long live Russian-African cooperation. Thank you. Well, dear President of Madagascar, thank you. And now I pass the floor to the President of Malawi, Mr. Peter Mutharika. You have the floor, sir.
Your Excellency, Vladimir Putin, President of the Russian Federation, Your Excellency, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, President of the Arab Republic of Egypt and Chairperson of the African Union, Your Excellencies and all heads of state organizations, all protocol observed. Today is the birth of a new epoch in history. Time has come for Russia to do what history has failed. Time has come to set Africa on new economic balancing scales and give African people the dignity they deserve. But first, let me express my profound gratitude to His Excellency Vladimir Putin, the government, and people of the Russian Federation for the outside hospitality accorded to me and my delegation. We will carry the great spirit of Russia in our heart as we go back to my country. Allow me also to commend President Putin and fellow African leaders for taking this bold and visionary step. We are stepping on the doorstep of change. We're opening a new door into Africa's future. And change is a child of courage. Africa is a land of great opportunities. We have sufficient land resources, mineral resources, water bodies, and a labor force of 1.2 billion people. Africa has the highest rate of investment return in the world. When the rest of Africa looks at Africa, they see poverty and crisis. But poverty is an opportunity of investment. Every crisis is an opportunity. It only depends on how we respond to any crisis. But Africa is not a dark continent of misfortune. Africa is a place of visionary people who know what to do with their lives, great potential, and resourceful people. Hard survival has taught us to be a resilient and resourceful people. What we need are trusted and strong partners like Russia to actualize our development potential. Everyone benefits if we look at Africa as a partner in development and not a target of exploitation. We must bring to an end Africa's history of exploitation. Africa can best contribute to the world if we create good conditions of production. We cannot trade with the world if we not produce goods. Therefore, Africa must industrialize. Countries such as Russia must look to Africa as a production point of the world. Our labor forces shall be your labor forces, and our markets shall be your markets. That's one way for us to create jobs for all our people. In this context, Malawi's vision is to move from being a consuming and importing nation to becoming a producing and exporting country. Malawi is on the road to industrialization. This is a strategy Russia has tried and prevailed. In the words of President Putin, the goal is to, quote, ensure sustainable progress development of our economy and to shield our citizens from hardships, end of quote. In order to make Malawi a producing and exporting country, we focus on agriculture, industrialization, energy, ICT infrastructure, mining, among other sectors. There are priorities outlined in the Malawi Growth and Development Strategy number 3. Our priorities say one thing to the government and people of Russia. Our priorities are your priorities. Our interests are your interests. And your interests are our interests. Our concerns are the very concerns of the Russia-Africa Economic Forum. Our goals are the goals of the Russia-African Summit. In the pursuit of common goals, Malawi invites Russian financial institutions to finance our national priority sectors to the benefit of both countries. Let me also invite Russian investors in agriculture and agro-processing, ICT infrastructure, transport, energy, security, mining, financial services, tourism, education, health, and manufacturing. On notable conclusion, let me reiterate my government's fully committed to subscribe to peace and security for sustainable development. We'll continue to support and implement regional and international conventions to ensure terrorism, cross-border crime, organized crime, illicit farm trade, human and drug trafficking, among others, do not succeed. Together, we can go far. Together, we can achieve more. I thank you for your attention.
أشكر أخي فخامة رئيس بيتر متاريكا رئيس جمهورية ملاوي.
I'd like to thank the President of Malawi, and I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Keita, the President of Republic of Mali. You have the floor, sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
In the name of Allah.
Ici, Président Vladimir Putin, Monsieur le Président Al-Sisi.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, President Putin, President Sisi. Thank you. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, heads of states and governments, dear friends, we are all gathering in Sochi. I must say that for me is a very important trip, because my predecessor, who was president of Mali before me, twice had an opportunity to come to this wonderful resort city, and climate of Sochi affects your health positively, and I was glad to be able to follow his steps and to come to this city. Yesterday, well, the reception was wonderful. We were eager to dance with your artists, with those who actually gave their energy to us. You demonstrated the beautifulness of Russian soul, choreography, music, theater. That's the elements which accompany us here in Sochi. That's beautiful city actually is receiving us with all hospitality, and it will be in our hearts forever. And the same should be the character of our relations between Africa and Russia. It's high time to do this, because recently one could not imagine this, but a lot separated us politically and ideologically, and now the entire Africa came here to you, and our ideas are we have joined our ideas, we've joined our hearts in a symphony, and we hope that the symphony will sound for a long time and in all continents. A lot of my predecessors, a lot of those who took the floor before me, my brothers and friends, expressed a lot of warm words to organizers. And I'd like to say a couple of words about my continent, about my country. Well, talking about security, Comore Island. Those who took the floor before me mentioned this serious problem. I cannot but mention it. Mali, and actually you helped us a lot to start developing our economy in an adequate manner, but we are facing a lot of security problems. 22% of our GDP we spend for military purposes, defense purposes. But it's not a hard burden. It's impossible burden. Those finances we not invested in our infrastructure, energy, industry, and in our development. We spend them in the area which we don't need. That's why we do hope that our friendship, not only in this area, will help us to overcome this hard times. You are a champion when it comes to fighting terrorism. You mentioned yourself that you have all opportunities for this. You have best practices nobody else has, and we desperately need this experience. You cannot just imagine how desperate we are in getting your experience in Sahel, in asymmetric, in using your opportunities, in providing asymmetric answer. We are quite interested in this because otherwise we won't be capable of solving this problem alone. A lot of my brothers said that alone you are not a fighter. We have to be together. We shall not only be together in Africa, but we shall be together with Russia, and we shall declare openly our international posture. And we need our representatives in international organizations, and we ourselves should understand that we need a joint position, common position. We are glad to be here. This gives us an opportunity to discuss all the difficulties, all the problems which we are facing. I cannot leave this place without mentioning such issues as security and development, or security for development, because it's of vital importance for us. It's a survival issue for us. Well, climate changes affects us, but climate change cannot be compared with security issues. And ecological security or natural disaster security in this area, this is also a problem for us. Without solving these problems, a lot of people will suffer from climate change and its consequences. I'm not talking about the vulnerability of our population, which lives in Sahara and Sahel region, and this vulnerability increases because there are no security in this region. There is no security in this region. Mali and the Maghreb and the entire continent and the entire world should join efforts in solving this problem. And there is not a single country, independently of its political and financial resources, there is not a single country capable of solving these problems alone. We need you, Vladimir Vladimirovich, in order to solve the problems of Sahel and Sahara region. We should be more sure about our future, more secure future, and only on the basis of joint work we would be able to achieve equality and respect. Well, again, talking about dams. If our dam is destroyed, then everybody will be flooded. So we have to modernize this infrastructure without losing time. Because if something happens, everybody will suffer. Thank you. Now I give the floor to the President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, Matamek Ould Sheikh El Ghazouani. You have the floor, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Peace and peace to you, Your Excellency, Mr. Putin, President of Russian Federation, Your Excellency Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, President of Egypt and acting head of African Union, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Head of African Union, distinguished head of African Union. First of all, I'd like to thank President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, as well as Russian government and Russian people. I'd like to thank them for their hospitality, for the warm reception, for warm hospitality which we have here in Sochi. And I'd like to thank co-chair of our summit, the first summit in our history, President of Russia, Mr. Putin, and President of Egypt, acting chair of African Union, Mr. Sisi, for a wonderful organization of the summit. Our summit demonstrates the solid relations between Russia and African countries. This reflects our joint desire to elevate our relations up to the new level. Russia and Africa are linked with its friendship and cooperation. We share almost the same position in different issues. We are in favor of multipolar, more fair world. We are in favor of sustainable development. We are against unilateral actions. We are against intervention into internal affairs of countries. We are against violence. We are for equality all over the world. Africa presently is active actor of Strategy 2063 and the sustainable development. We are more active in creating a free trade zone in Africa. We are more active in developing our common economic policy. The African countries are eager to solve their problems in the area of security. We have to deepen and develop our partnership. That's why our today's summit requires a special significance. And I'm sure that it will help us to draft a joint common concept of constructive and fruitful cooperation between Russia and the African continent. As to the situation in the Sahel area, well, the situation becomes more complicated due to various factors, and 5 Sahel countries, as Mr. Cabaret mentioned it, as well as Mr. Ibrahim Karkata, this situation becomes more and more complicated. And using this opportunity, well, I will not add anything to what have been said. I just want to say that we have to keep fighting terrorism. I would like to join to what my colleagues, other African countries' presidents just said.
Our relationship with the Russian Federation are the ones of cooperation and friendship, especially when we discuss the issues of preparing the military cadre, the personnel for education, healthcare, and fisheries. These are points of contact. And this is amply evidenced by the signing of memorandum of political consultations between our countries, which took place in Nouakchott in May of 2017. Here in Mauritania, or back home in Mauritania, given the strategic significance of our country, given its geographic location, given the abundance of natural resources, and given the significant outcomes, the significant metrics that we met in the economy, we can state that we have plenty of potential to untap and have plenty of avenues of cooperation to explore. All of the above makes a solid foundation for developing our ties with the Russian Federation, and naturally we can fully maintain and assert that this opens up new opportunities and new spaces for our cooperation, which can be explored for the mutual benefit of the entire African continent. I am fully convinced that this summit will give greater momentum to the development of Russia-Africa ties and will be a major input to building the bridges of cooperation. Thank you. Your Excellency, the agenda of the ties between Russia and your country is indeed to a great extent coinciding. Many of the things that you've mentioned conforms to our stance. We accept no interference into the sovereign affairs of states, of any states. We are fully aware of the deplorable consequences of such policy. Libya is a graphic example, and needless to say, we support the counterterrorism efforts of the G5 for Sahel. Now I would like to give the floor to the President of the Republic of Mauritius, Mr. Vayapuri.
Thank you. Your Excellency, President Vladimir Putin, Your Excellency, Mr. Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, President of Egypt, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Honorable President of the African Union, distinguished delegates. It is an immense honor for me and my delegation to be in Russia, in this beautiful city of Sochi, to participate in this important summit. At the very outset, I wish to express my admiration and gratitude to His Excellency President Vladimir Putin for his leadership in hosting this first Russia-Africa summit. We have no doubt that this summit will usher in a new era of partnership between Russia and Africa and set our relations on a new path of progress, aiming to improve the quality of life of our peoples. Excellencies, I would like to share with you some good news that we came to know about only this morning. Mauritius has moved from the 20th place on the Global Index of Ease of Doing Business to the 13th place. We share this information not as a matter of self-satisfaction, but as a matter of pride for Africa. We will always remember that it is during this Russia summit, Africa summit, that an African country has been listed among the top 15 countries in the world for ease of doing business. The Russian Federation, Mr. President, has always stood by Africa during its decolonization process and thereafter on its path to development. As regards the claim of Mauritius for its sovereignty over the Chagos archipelago, we must thank the African Union and Russia for their support and look forward for their continued collaboration after the 22nd of November, the date set by the United Nations for the withdrawal of the UK administration from the Chagos archipelago and its return to the Republic of Mauritius. Excellencies, Africa, no doubt a continent with great potential for growth and development, will be called upon to play an ever increasingly important role in the global stage in the years ahead. Russia will surely be a major partner in this venture. We are very happy to note that trade relations between Russia and Africa have more than doubled in the past 5 years, reaching $20 billion US. We commend the signature of a memorandum of understanding between the African Union and the Eurasian Economic Commission on economic cooperation. For its part, Mauritius stands ready to negotiate the conclusion of a free trade agreement between Mauritius and the Eurasian Commission, and I am confident that this will soon be a reality. Another important feature that will contribute greatly to the advancement of our progress is air connectivity. Mauritius believes that air connectivity will be quintessential in furthering people-to-people linkages and trade and economic relations between Russia and Africa. Today, Aeroflot, the flagship of Russia, flies only to 5 African countries. While we understand the imperatives of business, there is a need to increase flights towards the different regions of Africa. Excellencies, this summit affords us an excellent opportunity to envisage new avenues of cooperation for transfer of technology. Mauritius, which has a vast maritime exclusive economic zone of 2.3 million kilometers, needs scientific and technical expertise to undertake offshore exploration for its oceanic resources. We welcome Russia as a trusted partner in this endeavor. As you are all aware, Russia has been a pioneer in space exploration and is today one of the leaders in space technology. We are sure that Africa has a lot to gain from Russia in the field of space technology, and in Mauritius we will be pleased to benefit from the expertise and know-how of the Russian space agency, Roscosmos, and a request has been made in that regard. Excellencies, I join my delegation in thanking the government of the Russian Federation for the warm welcome and gracious hospitality extended to us during our stay in Sochi and in making this Russia-Africa summit a success at all levels. Long live Russia-Africa friendship, long live Mauritius-Russia friendship. Thank you.
Господин президент, должен вам...
I should state that, well, you're not a very humble person, aren't you? You moved from 28th to the 13th place in the doing business ranking, and we went from 31 to 28. So we took your place in this rating, isn't it? But talking seriously, though, we congratulate with this major accomplishment, and not just this accomplishment, but with outstanding performance of your economy as well. And we do hope that the Eurasian Economic Commission will analyze with extreme attention the idea of creating a free trade area with your country, with Mauritius. Thank you for your remarks. And now I would like to give the floor to President of Mozambique, Filipe Nyusi. First of all, we congratulate him with winning the elections. And he also showed a great example on how it could be easily, on how one can effectively fight the gangs that have been terrorizing the country for a long, long time.
Obrigado, Excelências, co-presidentes, President Putin, President Al-Sisi.
Thank you, Your Excellency, President Putin, distinguished co-chairs, distinguished President Al-Sisi. We thank you for extending the invitation to us, and we thank the Russian nation that you represent. This is a great honor and a privilege to speak at this conference. And on behalf of the delegation that accompanies me, I am indeed very grateful to you for all the hospitality extended to us. I can clearly say that the work that we are doing now is important to the development of our relations, and we know that the Soviet Union supported us all along the neo-colonialist struggles, and we fought the colonial powers together. Today we see how Russia continues this struggle for a fairer and more balanced world order, be it in the United Nations, Security Council and beyond. We know that Russia supports the Isolvini consensus that gives way to greater weight of African countries in the African affairs. I specifically enjoyed President Putin saying that it is crucial that we look for African solutions to African problems. As I speak to you, in partnership with other countries, with our neighbors, we are fighting rebels and crime in the north of our country, and by doing so, we establish the trans-border security in the region. Recently, we've held a new round of elections, and we've signed the agreement on peace and reconciliation. Economic might and technological expertise of Russia that this country is willingly sharing with us gives us hope that we can also enable and unlock our economic growth. For instance, we would like to point out infrastructure, agriculture, hydrocarbon extraction, oil and gas, and communications as primary avenues of cooperation with Russia. We need to prioritize economic development in our ties, and by doing so, create greater diversity in our economy. After all, natural resources should be the benefits of the natural resources should be shared by the entire nation. We cannot cut corners in this pursuit, but I am sure that we will achieve this goal together, and we hope that together with Russia we'll open a new chapter in the history of Africa and our ties. Thank you. Thank you very much. Indeed, Russia and Mozambique are tied by historical ties, and we wish you every success in all the areas that you've mentioned now.
أشكر أخي فخامة الرئيس فيليب نيوسي رئيس جمهورية موزمبيق وأدعو
I thank His Excellency Nyusi, President of Mozambique. And now I give the floor to Mr. Geingob, President of Namibia.
Thank you, Your Excellency Vladimir Putin, Your Excellency Sati co-chairpersons, Your Excellencies, Head of State and Government, Chairperson AU Commission, Mohammed Faki, His Royal Highness the King of Swatini, distinguished delegates, we are deeply honored to be present here in this beautiful city of Sochi to witness this momentous occasion in Russia-Africa relations, the first historic Russia-Africa summit taking place under the theme for peace, security, and development. We express our gratitude to you, Your Excellency Putin, the President of the Russian Federation, for the invitation extended to African leaders to be part of this important and historic summit. We furthermore thank you, President, and the people of Russian Federation for the warm hospitality extended to us since our arrival in Sochi. As a former freedom fighter, we recall the invaluable support we received from the Soviet Union, now Russia. This is a country where we were housed, trained, and supported during our liberation struggle. It is for this reason that Russia and Africa share an enduring and long-lasting partnership founded on the firm bonds of friendship and solidarity. We thank you, Russia. We are pleased that during this second phase of the struggle, we are able to converge at this historic summit to reignite our bonds of friendship with the Russian people and set the stage for an effective mechanism for enhancing mutually beneficial cooperation between Africa and the Russian Federation. Africa is undergoing a period of rapid transformation where we are in pursuit of achieving an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens and representing a dynamic force in the world global arena. In this regard, the launch of the African Continental Free Trade Area is one of the key priorities of Africa Agenda's 2036, and a flagship project for the continent highlights one of the most recent significant continental achievements. The African Continental Free Trade Area promises to unlock Africa's economic potential and bolster regional and continental economic integration and trade. Therefore, we invite our Russian friends to join us as we seek to leverage this. The world is at crossroads. The forces of nationalism are growing, promoting unilateralism through protectionism and placing multilateralism under threat. If this threat is not countered, we could slide into an era of unilateralism. This will not be beneficial for anyone in the long run. Our world needs multilateralism and countervailing forces to keep each other in check. This epoch-making moment, the inaugural Russia-Africa Summit, is a moment where our enduring friendship should drive us towards an era defined by multilateralism and an era in which international solidarity will open the gateways towards global peace, global unity, and prosperity. We are therefore glad to partake in this historic summit, which holds the promise for enhanced peace, security, and development. Let us make this a reality for the present and future Russia-Africa friendship. Long live the friendship between Russia and Africa. I thank you.
أشكر أخي فخامة الرئيس هاجي جانجو رئيس جمهورية ناميبيا على كلمته.
I thank President of Namibia, Mr. Gengob. Ladies and gentlemen, we have exhausted the agenda for the first plenary session. We will now have a 20-minute break, and then we will reconvene in 20 minutes to continue our work. And now I adjourn this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much.